Hello, my name is Sarah. I'm a mindset mastery coach and a transformational hypnotherapist and an attachment style specialist. Today's video, we're talking about what exactly does a dismissive avoidant feel during the breakup? Because a lot of my clients or a lot of people that reach out to me on here say it just seems like the dismissive avoidant doesn't feel anything, right? So I want to clarify some things. I want to clear the air and I want to give some really detailed answers as to what the dismissive avoidant is feeling inside of a breakup, like on the heels of a breakup, inside of the breakup. So the first thing that they're going to feel, guys, is relief. They actually feel relief, like a weight has been lifted from their shoulders. So they now have space, they have time, they have free energy, autonomy, independence. They can go do what they want to do. And they feel really good about this initially, right? They have this sense of like, I'm going to go auto regulate. They don't say this to themselves. They don't probably even know they're doing it. They're going to go regulate themselves by themselves, right? They're going to go do things that, I don't know, they're going to tinker with things. They're going to go work a lot. They're going to go distract themselves in some way with a hobby, but they're going to find things to do that make them feel good because in their mind at this point in the relationship was the problem. You were the problem. The relationship was the problem. And now that problem has been removed from their life and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much relief. So life keeps going for them and everything sort of looks clearer again. It's like everything is suddenly coming out like roses and butterflies for the dismissive avoidant. They're telling themselves that you weren't compatible anyway. They're telling themselves all sorts of beliefs and all sorts of sort of half truths to make themselves feel better. So they're saying, you know what, we weren't working out anyway. We weren't compatible. We had different beliefs, and it just wasn't a good match, right? Which is pretty generic in and of itself. Number two, the second thing they're feeling or doing rather is they're going to suppress and numb. They're going to numb out. So whatever they are feeling, whatever might be coming to the surface, they're going to push that down as quickly as it came up. So they'll do anything to avoid feeling, right? They're going to do anything at all to avoid feeling. And this could include drugs, alcohol, food, gambling, dating, sex, etc., etc. Work, any sort of distractions, as I mentioned before, and just generally staying busy. They're going to do anything to stay busy to avoid facing the reality that you, an important person for X period of time, months or years, has now exited their life, right? So initially, they really do believe that they're better off. They're literally, they've convinced themselves, I'm better off without this person, and I'm going to be able to move on pretty quickly. And in some cases they can, because they kept things so shallow, guys, because they didn't actually go to the deep end of the pool, the deep end of the ocean with you. So by keeping things shallow, it was actually easier for them to move on. But when I say move on, that doesn't mean they're processing the breakup in any sort of a healthy way, right? So they're going to reframe the relationship to make this belief true, that they are better off without you. They're going to reframe the relationship. This is point number three. So they're going to dismissive avoidant. I'm going to reframe the relationship and make it so I'm better off without you, right? We weren't a good match. We weren't compatible. That's like something you hear from a lot of DAs. We just weren't compatible. Oh, we were fighting too much. Well, yeah, you were fighting because you, as the partner, were probably trying to fight for the relationship. You were probably trying to fight for them. You were probably wanting to go to therapy to get your needs met, and these things weren't happening. And eventually, you're probably going to lash out as any person would do when their needs aren't getting met. Because the DA ultimately hasn't met their own needs, they're not actually available to meet your needs either. So it's not until enough time has passed and they've auto-regulated and spent time, independently doing things that they like to do that make them happy, that make them feel at peace, that they finally start to feel the pain of the breakup. And they finally start, and really they're also starting to, in that time frame, feel the absence of you, the absence of what you brought into their life. And the absence of that stability, the absence of a person who cared about them, the absence of somebody there to talk to when they had a tough day, and really the absence of what they lost in you and in the relationship. So that connection that they once were so terrified of is now the thing that they're missing. And that is like the biggest irony, I think, for dismissive avoidant. They fear connection, and yet they're craving emotional closeness and connection and intimacy because they're a human being like we all are. Do not dehumanize an avoidant. I see it and it pisses me off. They are a human being. and they have needs. They just don't know how to get those needs met, because if you'll watch my previous video that I posted, you'll see the one just before this, you'll see, because I talk about it, why in their childhood this wasn't mirrored to them. It wasn't mirrored to them, guys. So suddenly they're intrigued by this relationship. They're intrigued by you again. It's sort of like a resurrection of the relationship in their mind and emotionally. They're feeling that loss really start to sink in. They will start to feel it at some point in time. Unless they're very dismissive avoidant, unless they're like on this end of the spectrum all the way over here and they just never feel and never process, in which case I do feel like eventually life and loss is going to catch up with them. And at some point, they're going to have to confront all of their demons, all of the pain. And it's probably going to send them over the edge, honestly, like send them into an anxiety overload, a depression overload. Okay. So the next point is the avoidant truly does miss the stability that you provided, that that relationship provided. But this clashes with their deep need for independence. So they have this stability, right? They really like stability. You've probably seen this in their finances and the way they manage their finances, the way they manage a home, the way they manage their lives in general, the way they manage their emotions, the way they manage you and the relationship, guys. They know how to manage expectations with a partner. But this clashes with their deep need for independence. So they're like, I don't really know what to do with this. So I don't think I really want to say any more about that. That's pretty self-explanatory. But without processing the breakup in any sort of a healthy way, without actually processing it, each loss builds on top of the previous losses in their life. And this doesn't just have to be breakups. This can be losses of any kind. And they end up with a pile of unprocessed shame, unprocessed pain, repressed shame, regret, guilt, and a deep reservoir of internal sadness that they can't even really pinpoint. They can't access, but it's there. They find themselves feeling alone, lonely, disconnected, and stagnant, really unable to move forward. And they may or may not necessarily connect these feelings with the loss of you. Because these are, yes, it's the loss of you and your relationship, but it's also all of their previous losses just having built up in a pile of loss, in a pile of pain, and a pile of shame and regret and guilt and sadness, right? And maybe even anger mixed in there. But usually by this point, when they start to feel the loss, the anger has passed. Usually the anger is initial and then the anger passes. And of course, you probably experience this too as the partner of the dismissive avoidant. But it's a really dark place to be because they're stuck in the past. They're stuck in these endless cycles. Like they're looping, guys. It's like Dante's Inferno. They're in a level of Dante's Inferno and they're really unable to find their way out or navigate a way forward. It's a really dark and scary and lonely place to be for a dismissive avoidant. So here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to over empathize with your previous avoidant partner, your avoidant ex, because that can be dangerous, right? That cycle will start all over again. The avoidant hasn't actually self introspected or done any work or reflected or processed. So they're the same person. Nothing's going to change if they haven't changed. So you can change, but hopefully when you change, if you've healed enough, you won't even be attracted to that person anymore unless they've also done their work. You'll be attracted to somebody of a different caliber, somebody who's actually done, somebody who will match the internal work that you've been doing on yourself. The dismissive avoidance tends to get stuck in some sort of emotional dysregulation and really emotional instability, emotional distance, and emotional, I think I said dysregulation, but really in this place of emotional immaturity. They can be so successful. A DA can be so successful in life in other arenas. They can make a lot of money. They can have a great job. They can have a nice home. And all of those things are great and wonderful. But at the end of the day, they're the ones who are typically alone. They're the ones who typically don't have the partner. And they're sort of scratching their head like, something's missing. But again, whether or not they can pinpoint that to needing to do some emotional regulation work and skill building in that area of life, I don't know. It really, I think, depends on how deep the trauma goes from their childhood, how much neglect they endured. What did they actually witness their parents or caretakers doing? If they witnessed their parents or caretakers never actually resolving conflict and they never learned, and they never actually learned emotional intelligence, it doesn't mean they can't learn that. Emotional intelligence can be learned, but it needs to be desired. They have to desire to change and desire to move forward. And I think oftentimes they get stuck in this comfort, but the comfort is really the stagnation. Comfort is stagnation, right? You're not growing or evolving if you're in your comfort zone. So over time, usually months down the road, sometimes years down the road, honestly, guys, the dismissive avoidant will suddenly realize what they lost, what you brought into their life, and why you mattered. And they're going to potentially reach out, or they won't. They'll feel this and just internalize this, which again is just, it's not gonna do any good unless they actually process it with a qualified person, a therapist, a coach, a pastor, etc. At least, I don't know, at least a family member or a friend or somebody who they can actually pour out their heart to and talk to. They have feelings, guys. These feelings are buried. They're buried beneath all of these other feelings. And especially if they're a dismissive avoidant male, men carry a lot of shame. That is your number one wound as a male on this earth right now, is working through your shame. And men haven't really been taught, actually, not haven't really, they haven't been taught how to handle that, how to deal with that. But shame leads to violence. Shame leads to suppressions. Shame leads to breakups of relationships and marriages, because I would rather, that inside that man's mind, I would rather not feel the shame and I would rather lose my marriage or relationship than feel this shame. That's how painful and deep that wounding is for men. Women have their own wounding. I'm not going to talk about that right now, but we do. Um, and it's around safety. But for the man, it's around shame. So you have the shame wound and the safety wound. Guess what? If neither person has done any work in those arenas, you're not going to have a viable relationship, guys. And I see, so many people come to me saying, I just want to be back with my partner. But ultimately, the work I'm going to do with you is getting you to a healthy place, getting you to a place where you have processed the breakup or you've accepted the breakup. And when you're able to move on, and then if that person comes back into your life, you can decide from a healthy, secure place whether that person is for you. Otherwise, you're going to repeat the cycles. And it's going to probably be faster the second time around and probably even more painful. Because then again, it's like loss upon loss upon loss. So I can't help you get your ex back. That would be unethical. And that's not what I want to do. I want to get you to a place where you move forward with a greater and deeper understanding of yourself. And I do that with different modalities and different tools. If you're interested in a one-on-one coaching session or hypnotherapy session, hit me up. There is a link below to book a 20-minute discovery call. I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be doing those discovery calls because it sort of ends up being a free coaching session. So I might be sort of backtracking on those, and it may just be where you just book sessions with me directly. I haven't decided. But I also want to give people the opportunity to talk to me so I can understand if we're a good match and how I can help you if I feel like I can help you. So I would love to work with you. And if you're new to the channel, or if some of you guys have been around for years, you stuck with me for years through different topics and different chapters of my life, please like, share, subscribe, comment. All of these things, guys, I can't tell you, they greatly help the analytics of this channel. They help me grow my channel. They help me continue to be able to make this content for free for you guys. And I really appreciate your time and energy being here. And I truly hope that my videos have given you peace of mind and understanding as to what's transpired. Thank you, guys. See you in the next video.